Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's February 22nd, and this will be our chart lesson for today. We lost a day this week during the President's Day. I forgot to mention it last week. I think I forgot to mention it. I don't know what I might have forgot or did or didn't do last week. It was a little bit hectic for me, to say the least. But anyway, I'm back at work today. When you have something like that happen in your life, the best thing to do is just stay busy and keep your mind occupied and off of other issues. So that's my plan. But let's get to the chart here. I wanted to start off showing you a daily chart. You can see that we did break out of the pink range here, and we came down and we tested the lows. We're severely oversold here again. But this thing is turned down, and we could make another leg down. I'm not ruling out another leg yet. So far, this support is holding, and so we'll see what happens from here. Hopefully, we'll bounce out here. I'm sure we'll get some kind of correction, even if we're at the very least. I mean, we've already got a bounce off those lows. You can see that right there. But we could make this next leg down, and there's just so much negativity hanging over the market right now. The economy's not good. Gas is going through the ceiling. We got the Ukraine issue with Russia threatening to invade over there and that changing by the minute. So anything is possible. So I don't know what to expect. But just looking at the chart here, we got a bounce here, but I don't. This just doesn't look like we're bouncing out of here. We ended up giving back a lot of this early morning rally. We still closed off the lows. We're still trading off the lows now, but that doesn't mean anything at this point. So we'll just have to wait and see. Until this support gives way, I wouldn't be looking at any long-term shorts or anything like that. Short term, it looks like the support's holding, so we'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully we bounce out of here and rally out of here. If not, we may make a measured leg down, and if we do, just looking at a measured leg down just to see, I would measure here first. And just looking at a measured leg down, I don't know if we got a new high there or not, but it looks like we're looking down around 4,050 or so. So that's fairly decent correction. Looks like 4,056 or so. So we'll just have to see. But that's just a quick glance at the daily chart. And let's flip over to the intraday 2000 tick chart. Okay, here's what it looks like. In the big picture, this is a big range. We started off most of the early morning regular session open, which this white is the 8:30 where the regular session would open, the regular stock market. And you can see we stayed in that range a little bit, but when we dropped down, if you just tried to go for a measured move, which is what this blue line is, that's exactly where we bounced, and we just stayed right in the middle of that. So in the end, this was not the low of the range, this was a midline. And so the way I would end up drawing this in the end of the day, I left it the way it was because I wanted you to see how I saw it earlier. But as you can see, that's the range, and that turned out to be a midline there. So hopefully that makes sense to you if you're new around here. And lots of trades today. For a range day, there were some really good trades today. Lots of second entries with the trend. So it was a really good trading day. And I'll go through. You can see how many shorts there were here. I mean, there's plenty. I mean, there's a really good trading day up until about 1 o'clock. And then there's a couple of trades after that, but not a whole lot. So anyway, let's zoom in here. We'll go through these trades and we'll wrap this Tuesday up. So 7 o'clock came actually right in here is where, notice that we got a new high here, and you got a double top basically, and you pull back and try to go high once, try to go long a second time, and it fails. So that's a failure. I like the opportunity of going short there. I made this one green because it still sets up really well, but we had this big strong move up and we've had a break, and we still don't quite have a new high yet. So you could actually, if your read is not good, you could get trapped there and it could go higher. So I still like it, but I would mark that one. It's not high probability because it could trap the shorts there and go higher. You can see there's a little support across there too. So, but I wanted to mark it because somebody will probably ask me about it if I don't. And of course, we made a new low down here rallied up back through the EMA, pulled back, tried to go higher once, tried to go higher twice, and it failed. And look at that big bearish bar. It actually broke higher and turned down. You know you got them trapped right there. You could go short below it, or you could wait. You could go short below this bar on the engulfing bar. You really need to know what you're doing if you're trading engulfing bars, though. This does look a little congested, but because it's a triple test and tried to go higher, and as bearish as that bar ended, I like going short there. If you didn't go short there, you could enter here. And really, the reason I marked this one green, you could even look at that as a lower high. I mean, you could argue for this one to be red, but the reason I made it green was because technically you got a first entry and a second entry, so technically your failure is there in this congestion. But if you look at it, it really looks like a leg down, a correction, another leg down, a second entry long, and then it fails. So by the counts, it's not a failed second entry long, but it looks like one. But you could also trade it as a lower high as being a trap there. And look at that signal bar. I like that trade either way. I really probably could. You could argue for it to be red. I left it green, but you could argue for it either way. And then we run down, make a new low. You get a first entry, and then right here you get a second entry. Again, it breaks higher and turns down, so you could trade it on the engulfing bar, but it looks a little like it might be going to get congested. But when this bar closes that bearish, go short below that. And I mean, that's 2 legs back to the EMA, and you're looking for a new swing low anyway. So, and you really are looking for another leg down if it tries to go lower. So measure that leg and then that leg, and you can see you basically got 2 measured legs down there. Then it comes back, you get a first entry, and you get another second entry right here at the key entry point with another nice signal bar. You've already had 2 legs down, but I still like that for a scalp. And you never know, it could make another leg down. But what it does, it looks like it's going to trap people, and then it gives you a lower high and another chance to go short right there. Okay, I'm sorry, I had a slight interruption. I know we talked about this second entry here, and it's real close to being red. The only reason I'm not crazy about making that one red is because we already had the 2 legs down. But when we made this, when it tried to go higher again and we made this lower high with that bearish bar, you just about have to take that trade. I like that one. Unfortunately, I mean, you get a couple of 3 points out of it or more. I'm not sure exactly what you get. It doesn't get a huge runner or anything like some of these other trades. But I mean, that's still a 5-point move. So, I mean, you still get a chance to get 2 or 3 easy points out of a runner on that trade maybe. So it just depends on how this, I can't remember exactly how this played out. So don't know if you'd got a runner there or not, but I think you would have, because I think it bounced here first before it broke lower. And like here and one of these other ones, there's a couple in here today that have some easy runners. And of course we do fail here. There's a failed second entry short here. Technically it's not a failure, but it bounces real fast. But that's because we've already had 2 legs down. It just took a little bit of momentum to get it rolling here, but you just don't get a chance to enter this, unfortunately. That's a nice move up. And you got to close outside here at a new high, and one more push to a new high, and then it makes this lower high here with a decent signal bar. It's a little congested, but being that far away from the EMA and making a lower high here now, I did mark this one at least green. I like that trade. I'd probably take it most times, because you know here the congestion is because you've run into this resistance here so far away from the EMA that's just way past time for prices to snap back. Doesn't mean that they necessarily have to snap back, but you know that's probably what's going on there. So we're meeting a lot of selling right there, and so I like going short there. You might say, hey, there's a reversal here, but technically this all looks like one leg down to me. This all looks like a little congestion, then a leg down, and then you get a first entry, and then the second leg down, and the second entry long, and that quickly fails, and there's you another easy shot down. Again, you don't get a huge runner here, but you get a chance to get some runner points there. It comes back. This is it. Believe it doesn't really look like it, but this is a second entry. If you can't see this, it's a little more advanced. Don't don't scratch your head forever on it. It's more advanced. It'll come to you. But notice that prices are working up and they turn down. So there's your first entry. But then prices turn back up before turning down again. So that's the second break. So you got a first entry on this bar, and the second entry was triggered on that same bar. So, or triggered on a break below that same bar because the second entry triggered on this bar. So look how bearish that is. Take that trade, because a lot of times you get a break and 2 legs down, and you get 2 measured legs there, and then it bounces again. And there's a second entry long here. Again, you got a new high, first entry, then it turns down and turns back up all in one bar. We see this several times a day, so it's another somewhat different second entry, but it's also a new low here, so you get a first entry and a second entry short that fails. Now, you don't want to be taking a second entry on this side of the EMA after you've already had a break and 2 legs down. So you wouldn't be looking for a short. So anybody got tricked there and went short, very bad read. But you'd want to take that trout most likely. I don't know if I'd wait till here and go long. You probably want to go long on the break above this bar, but as bullish as that is, I wouldn't have a problem going long up here. And you actually get another second entry, but that's a little too congested for me, and I don't really like where it sets up either, so I didn't mark that trade. I don't think you should take that. So it's a trade you can take, and one that I like. I mean, we're still making higher highs and higher lows. The problem is this one shot back through the EMA. Plus, this one you had a trend up with a break in 2 legs. So it's a little convoluted here, but there's definitely a short trout. And so maybe you take that trade. We're not back to the highs yet, as you can see. So maybe you take that trade. Now you get this failed break higher up here, and notice you got a new low, and you get a first entry, second entry, and being that far, this breaks higher and turns down. Most breakouts are going to fail. Normally I'd tell you to wait on a lower high, which you probably should, but this being a second entry, I'd probably take it. I like it, and you see if you catch that, that's the trade of the day right there, and you could ride that all the way down. That's an easy runner. And just take it all the way down. I mean, this was a good trading day. Even though it's a range day, it's a lot of straightforward second entries and failures and things. So a lot of runners. So pretty good trading day. But anyway, this runs on down straight through the EMA, tries to go higher once, and then tries to go higher twice. It fails. There's your failure right at the EMA. I like going short there as well. And you can see it just drops straight down. There's a lower high here, but we've moved too far away from the EMA. Just wait, and if you're patient, a few minutes later you get a first entry and then a second entry right, and it confirms that key entry point. Again, it breaks higher and turns down. It's probably too big of a bar to go short down here, but once it went past, you could drop a limit order in there. I'd probably just trade it straight on when it went past on that second entry, just to get a better entry, because you can see the bottom just falls out of it. And again, you get another runner here. So this looks a lot like a failed second entry long, which it is, but it didn't quite get back to the EMA or the trend line, so I was a little afraid of it. It's a little congested too. Would have worked all the same. Comes back to the key entry point and gives you another chance to enter. But we've had so many good trades. Just be patient, wait, and a few minutes later you make a new low and you get a first entry and then a second entry right at the EMA. Another nice bearish bar. And if you didn't like that one, you get a lower high here in just a minute, still right at the key entry point, and it's still just chopping lower. You could probably argue that's not a hugely convincing close outside, but it's probably enough that I wouldn't take anything else down here, even though you get another lower high here. You got to go low right in, or short right into the lows, and we're overdue to bounce. I mean, that was a really nice move down. It's a spiking channel into the yellow channel. So nice setup there. And we rally up out of there. It looks like we're going to have a failed or second entry long here, failed second entry short maybe. As you can see, you get a first entry, second entry, but it shoots back under the EMA. If you went long there, you probably get trapped. So uh, there's another reason I don't really like that one yet. I didn't put this on there, but it looks like there's another channel down here too, and you can see how that trend line's working down through there. And then we suddenly start coming up short, so it leads you to think we're going to get a break. Let me just color that and make it a little easier to see. So this is a pretty strong trend that kind of flattened back out a couple of times and then went sideways for it took off lower again. But this just turns out to be sideways stuff. I don't think you want to go long or short here. And then by that time, it's just kind of chopping along. This one was tempting, but when you make these 2-bar matching highs that are lower than this high, you got to be concerned that there's no rejection there and we may not bounce. So I don't like going long there. There's a second entry short here off this high, but signal bar is not very good. Then there's a failure, but this has been pretty bearish, so I don't see any reason to try to go long here. It is a little ways away from the EMA. You might say, hey, let's wait on a higher low, but you don't really get it. It just keeps going higher. And then, of course, you get this big bearish bar, and then you make this lower high. As long as you got room to get out between here and here, I say take that trade because this thing's been really bearish. And once again, it takes off. But you don't know that you'll get back through there again. So you probably cleaned out most of your buying across here with this move here. So my guess is if it does get through there, you want to at least look for another leg like so. And you can see that's about where it tried to bounce before it continued to go lower. So I like that lower high. There's a failure here, but it's right into the, this would have been the low of the range kind of for the day at this point. So that's another reason you got to be real careful here, and why I don't like going short right into this area right here, because now you got a double bottom here, and so you can't get short right in there, and it may bounce and turn back up. So you got to be real careful right in here. I don't see anything that really sticks out to me that I like there. And we continue to drop on down, but I just don't see any setups here. There is a first entry, and then it breaks higher and gives you a second entry. It is all in one bar, but it looks a little congested. If you took that, you could probably argue for that to be green. If you took that trade, maybe okay, but we're not quite back to the trend line. Maybe I moved that trend line. Still not quite back to it there. And then, of course, we finally come back to it here, but that's just so congested. I don't like it. And you see what happens. It bounces really quick. But notice you get a first entry and then a second entry. Your signal bar is not good enough here for the second entry. Let me zoom in a little more. Sorry. So the second entry is not very good, but then it makes a lower high when that's the first break of this green channel. So you just about got to take that second entry short and look at it go again. Another quick, easy runner on that. You get a first entry, second entry here, but not a good, the signal bar is not good enough. You're just kind of chopping sideways, but finally you make a lower high here that I like because it looks like we're going to go higher. And so now you'll probably get at least another leg down like that. But it turns out we get a whole lot more than that. This thing just drops on down. And then you get another little second entry short here with a huge signal bar. The reason, I'm trying to remember why I marked that green. You get your first entry. Oh, it turns back up. Maybe I just accidentally marked that green. I like that trade. There's no reason not to mark that red. I must have just clicked on the wrong button. We drop on down. Bounces down here on a perfect measured move that I showed you earlier. You get a first entry, it pushes through, you get a second entry. I like going long here. Well, this one breaks low on that second entry and turns. When it goes out the other side, you got them trapped. I really thought it would rocket up faster than it did, but it didn't. It took a little work, but it keeps on going. So you probably wouldn't have, you may not have got a runner on this. Once you got your scalp, you probably would have exited on that. they probably would have stopped you out. It depends on how you played it, but if you played it pretty much straightforward, they'd have got you here. You wouldn't have got a runner. And I don't think you want to go short here yet, even though it does come back down and try to test the lows again. Bounces. I mean, you can see we're starting to get some buying coming in, but I don't see anything I like in here to the long side. And then finally you get a first entry and then a second entry that fails way away from the EMA. And so I like that one just to ride it back. You could probably, I mean, even though I got a channel here, you wouldn't have had it yet at this point because you've only got 2 swings. So it looks, I mean, you got enough evidence here that it looks like it's going to be a channel. But so for that reason, I think you're probably okay to take that. Maybe you could argue that to be green. There's a lower high here, but it's right into the EMA. I mean, it's bearish enough by our rules, but I just don't, it's got too much stem to be sitting where it's at. It takes it a minute, but it drops on down. And then we get a triple test down here. A little ways from the EMA, and you got a nice signal bar. But notice your low. You test it once. You test it twice. You're probably going back to the EMA at a minimum. So I like that one. And this turns out, a lot of times when you catch these, look at it go. If you catch this one, you got another runner, and it just off to the races. They're running stops here. And this is the way I saw the channel. It ends up going much higher, but I think this is an overshoot because I cannot get this. I've tried to make this channel fit. I mean, maybe you argue for that, but it doesn't look very well fitting to me. I mean, you see we went higher here each time, and then we're down below it. Although there is a little close right there at it, maybe here. So it's just kind of convoluted. But this is the way I was drawing it early on because it fits perfect there. The midline's all in play. So I really thought that to be it, but it just keeps going. Doesn't matter because we start going sideways here, and then you get a little failed breakout with that big bearish bar. I like going short there. I mean, that's just, I mean, look at all that resistance. And then it breaks higher, and it doesn't even go very far. It just breaks right above this big bullish bar. That's where traders that just really don't know what they're doing enter. And you know you got a bunch of them trapped. And you may not have got in that trade even if you tried to take it because it just kind of gaps over. I don't think it even backs up and fills the little gap. See, it just closes on its low. This bar opens on its high and it just keeps going. It tried to back up there, but it couldn't. So that was a great entry. There's a lower high here, but you don't want to go short right into that support area. Worked, but you can't risk it. And then that took us into 2 o'clock without anything else. So really good trading day. I mean, some of these trades, I mean, there's so many straightforward, easy second entries here with a trend. Even some of the range stuff was kind of straightforward. It was just a really good trading day, in my opinion. So if you're not good with ranges, it may not have felt the same to you. But like I said, there's so many with trend moves here. I mean, this is a really strong downtrend right here. I mean, that is, it doesn't look like it, but it's a 100-point downtrend. And so, and you had several runners in there. And so that's what you got to try to catch. And then, of course, you had the big move back up right over here. If you might have got lucky to catch this, that's a 56-point move. And so real quickly, that brings up a thought that I had is that there's been a lot of talk on the forum and a lot of people sending me emails asking about slippage. In this volatility, there seems to be a lot more slippage. And what happens is when you move 100 points in one direction, I mean, really, we moved 100 points up, 100 points down, and then another 50 points back up. And when you get that much movement in there, you clean out all of the everything in there is cleaned out. So there's no buy stops and sell stops that are piling up at important places. It's probably piling up way down here and way up here, and we're not trading anywhere near that. So we're swinging through. We swung up through here and cleaned everything out. We swung back down and cleaned it all out again. We swung back up, and so by the time you come back down and go back up again, it's within a couple of hours. And so the buy and sell stops, even though the volume is still super high, the sell stops are not building up the buy and sell stops are not building up at critical places because there's not much time there to build up. So that's my opinion. That's why we're getting so much slippage. And it's just part of volatility. And people are scared. People jump in trades. They jump out quick. And, it's just you're liable to have slippage right now. But it doesn't seem to matter as much because you get such huge moves out of it, too. So somebody asked me, are you changing your trading? No, my trading entry is automated. So once I'm entered, if I get 3 ticks of slippage, I'm still trying to scalp 4 ticks because my profit's based on my entry. So it doesn't matter. I'm trading it the same way. So do what you feel comfortable with, but I'm not changing anything because of the volatility. In my opinion, I think it makes it easier to get 4 ticks. I mean, you got a 100-point move here. Can you not find 2 or 3 places in there to get 4 ticks? And if you're lucky, you get a runner, and you add 20 or 30 or 40 or maybe even 50 points. I mean, if you catch this move up here, or maybe even right here, if you catch it up here, you might get 100 points out of this. Most people probably wouldn't ride this big move out, sideways stuff out. But then you get back in and you get another 50 here. But hey, if you're one of those people that does like to get a runner, maybe you get a whole 100 points here. I mean, 100 points on one contract makes up for 100 losses if you're just trading singles. So keep that in mind. It changes your math considerably to the good. So, and to me, it just makes it that much. I mean, literally, there's a 100-point move straight down there. And if you can't find a spot to get 4 ticks in that, then this is probably not, you either got a long way to go, or this is probably not for you. Most of you, it's not that it's probably not for you, it's just you got a long way to go and you may not realize it. Most people come into this with such unrealistic expectations, but this is a skill, and you're trading against people that are very skilled at this, and it's a zero-sum game. So for you to make $1, somebody's got to lose $1, and the smartest traders do not lose, because they understand price movements, and price movements do not. So I don't care what your IQ is, how smart you are, or how smart you've been told you are. The smarter you are, probably the harder this is, because if you're really smart, you're used to you're used to using your intelligence and your common sense to help you along in life. But if you use that intelligence and common sense to try to figure out price movements, you will be wrong 9 out of 10 times, and you will lose. So it doesn't matter how smart you are. It's how well you understand price movements and how to read this chart. So make sure you understand that. People all the time contact me. I just need to make a little extra money on the side. My job played out or something. I mean, I cringe when I hear that, because you can't learn this quick enough to subsidize a job loss it's going to take you too long. And you're going to lose what little precious money you probably do have saved up. So just be careful and make sure you have realistic expectations. And if you do, and you're willing to put in the time and effort, this is very worth pursuing, trust me. And once you get it, it's not as hard as you think it is. But getting there is a long journey. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So make sure you keep that in mind. But I'm going to wrap this up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.